That's question number 2.
Good. Minister, I'd like to ask you about your plans to work to avoid further industrial action in the public transport companies, particularly Dublin Bus and Bus Éireann. Have you any plans to address this and avoid any future actions that's going to take place?
Thank you, Deputy. No, question number 2, Minister.
Thank you, Deputy. Deputy, I had an opportunity to refer to some of the points you were looking to make to me in the early parliamentary question to Deputy Dooley. But if I may make a number of additional points to you, I made very clear in the intervention that I made yesterday that were any existing employee of Dublin Bus or Bus Éireann to find themselves in a position that they were working on a route that had been tendered out to another company, they would not be required to transfer. So we now find ourselves in a situation where if Dublin Bus or Bus Éireann were to find that they lost a route due to the tendering process, drivers in those situations would face 2 options. Option number 1, I gave the commitment yesterday morning that they would not have to transfer if they did not want to do so, because I represent the degree of change involved in this, particularly if I may say so, in a part of the country represented by Deputy Halligan there, where I know this is a matter of great interest to employees located in his county. Or the second option that they would face is, if they wish to, they could transfer on existing terms and conditions. So a point that I would like to make to all concerned in this matter here today is that it's now, due to the intervention I made yesterday, a platform has now been created for substantial engagement in the Labour Relations Commission. We find ourselves in a situation where a strike is now ahead of the travelling public and employees in 2015 for something that might happen in 2019. All of the matters that have been raised by existing employees in both companies for 2015 and beyond, I and this government have dealt with by giving the guidance to the management in both companies that no existing employee will be required to transfer.
Minister. Deputy Dessie Ellis.
Well, I think it's clear, Minister, that maybe you don't see a problem, but certainly the Dublin bus workers and Bus Éireann and the unions see a problem coming down the road, that they believe that this is a drive to privatisation. I believe it's a drive to privatisation. And at a time when Dublin Bus and Bus Éireann and the fare numbers and the amount of people that are using the service has increased substantially, and we are starting to offload 10% of our routes down the road. To me, there's big issues here. I disagree with what you're saying in your 2 options, because if a private company comes in, they will decide who they employ and who they won't employ. It's not going to be down to, we're going to have option 1 and option 2 on the table. It'll be a situation the private companies will make up their mind on that, and they will cherry pick all the routes. There's absolutely no doubt that they will cherry pick what's the profitable routes and what isn't. And I think this is an absolute. We've seen in Dublin, and we've seen cutbacks in the routes over the last couple of years.
Thank you, Deputy.
And there has been a huge drop in the amount of money coming from government since you came into government, 23% and 24% respectively on both those companies. There has been a drop in terms of money.
I'll come back to the Deputy Minister.
Thank you. Deputy, you're absolutely wrong in the 2 points you've put there, and I say that with respect to you because I know the interest and support you have for both companies. First, it's not a case of the private operators, if a private operator were to win a tender, of being able to select what routes they would look to put that tender on. It's absolutely wrong. What is happening here is the National Transport Authority are looking at a parcel of routes, which is 10% of existing routes, and they are making the decision what routes would be tendered out. And you're using the language of privatisation, which I understand you will do for political reasons. But these are routes that the National Transport Authority will continue to regulate. They will regulate inside what is one of the most regulated markets in our country. And they will play the role in determining what are the fares and making sure that any tender is implemented. And again, Deputy, you're wrong in the point that you've just said there. The bus markets will not be picking, a private bus company will not be picking who they may employ or not.
Thank you.
Due to the intervention that I have made yesterday, it's the choice of the employee. And I've made that intervention because of the respect that I have for both companies and the work they've done, but also because of the commitment that we have that if and when we increase investment in the future, it delivers a better return for the taxpayer who's paying for that investment.
Dessie Ellis.
Well, I think, Minister, we keep going back. You always blame the NTA, and it's the NTA, they're the body that's regulating it. But do you not have any influence in this situation? It's an ideology that's driven by your own party, by Fine Gael, in terms of privatisation. And that's the problem that we have here. But, Minister, even at this late hour, will you not intervene or even talk to the unions or even and not go at arm's length in terms of your dealings? Would you not sit down and ask the unions to talk to yourself and explain to them what's going on? Do you intend to coalesce with private interests? You know, because that seems to me that what's going on, to break this strike, because this is, I think this is a very important stand by the workers, because they see what's coming down the road, the same as I see it. And what engagement did you take with the unions on these privatisation plans before going ahead with them? Did you sit down seriously with them and explain what was going to go on?
Call the Minister now.
I think, Deputy, it's one thing just to ignore everything I just said there a moment ago, but I think it's another thing to ignore everything I did yesterday. You're asking me to make an intervention. Look at what I did yesterday. Look at what this government did yesterday. We made a very comprehensive intervention to respond back to concerns that I can appreciate that employees would have. And allow me to reiterate again what we said yesterday. What this government said yesterday is that were any employee to find themselves in a position that their company, if that company is Dublin Bus or Bus Éireann, were not to win a tendered route, that work they will not be required to transfer. That's an absolute response back to the issues that have been raised by employees. You ask about what kind of engagement have I had directly with the unions. I met them all personally myself before Christmas, and my department has had ongoing contact, had contact with them recently, but I want to emphasise again the best place for these matters to be dealt with is inside the Labour Relations Commission.